installed. I just did a part of the work to install. So is what's called sun and back. Two crude fisheye lenses mounted on the rocket. I've got the source UV spectrum.
I came across a really interesting thing. It's to do with math. It has to do with chaos theory. It has to do with cross paths every 7 times. Every 7 times you move. Yeah, I moved 7 times before I met you again.
Oh, okay. I probably moved a lot more since you started.
Cross paths every 7 times. Every 7 times you move.
10 days.
Every 7 times. Every 7 times you move.
Funny thing about it is, we never saw the same voice.
Sounds like actually
It's talking about the chest.
Yeah, we finally changed that.
They're calling that today.
And what, did you really only need 2 seconds? Well, they were able to sell someone,
Showed up for blue.
when we mount, just have a permanent HD camera cheap enough, just have an HD camera mounted on the overhead.
It's the bandwidth that drops the quality, because this one can go up to 1080p
And how many frames per second?
at 30.
Is this a Logitech?
Yep.
What's the model on it?
C.
All it says is Logitech.
Yeah. It reads as a C170, but that's not what it is. Because the 170s, they do not quite 1080p, 30. They can do still images at 1080p.
Okay, what's the frame rate at 720?
720. Oh, it says it can go up to 60.
Because I spent a lot of time trying to find webcams that would do 720 at 60 frames, anything at 60 frames, and nothing was out there, which is why I wound up going with the GVC of the prop tower.
That should be.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Remind me if I forget.
That was a good program.
Go out there and do that.
Mix up with some snakes. No, actually, it's better than I always. I've been
I guess you could drive right up.
the charger on the wall is close enough. I just got yeah, it's just north of Highway 70. Right bad. You know, I was wondering, you know, my dad said, you know, when he was flying, you could always tell whether it was old pipe blade or whatever it was from aerial from the air. I don't know what kind of aerial stuff they're using at all to look at the topography. But, you know, finding a circular depression like that, it might show up a lot better, you know, it's aerial. Flying over the whole Which one is probably from the
Remember, she hated it.
yeah, so they were kids or whatever, something like that. But before that,
like 4 Q sticks, hold every card up the sleeve, right?
So that
Okay, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started here in just a second.
Director Chris Orwoll, Secretary.
So, well, welcome to March's first Friday lecture, our Launchpad lecture. I am Chris Orwoll. They still let me run this place. I'm still the executive director here for now. Who knows what's going to happen here anytime in the near future. But in any case, today we're going to be talking, well, Recently we spoke on, at least I did, spoke on eating in space and kind of went over some of the different ways that we have packaged food and things like that. Well, inevitably, what goes in must also come out. This is a topic that gets covered with relative frequency in the museum world and in the space world. If you ask any astronaut, the topic they get asked about the most, bar none, is about going to the bathroom in space. So, no ifs, ands, or buts. It comes up at every lecture, especially when there are kids present. And there are delicate ways to deal with it, and there are technical ways to deal with it. There are physiological ways to deal with it. It can be dealt with many different ways, but we're just going to deal with it today. So, and we're going to talk about, how do you get the stuff out? What equipment do you use? How indignified is it? Et cetera, et cetera. So, first of all, I always start off with quotes. Always go to the bathroom when you have a chance. King George V, okay? The British diplomatic corps still lives by this. Because think about it. You'll agree to anything if you have to go to the bathroom. You'll give up Poland. You might allow the Germans to take over whatever. The Russians, you want it? Yeah, sure, no problem. Through. So, in any case, always go to the bathroom when you have a chance. So, we talked about eating. A little quick review. Back in the Mercury program, we're talking about squeezing food into their mouth, jellied food. Kind of disgusting, in the Mercury program. Yeah, as we move into the Gemini program, maybe the food's gotten a little bit better. Some of the methodologies are still the same. You're still, somewhat squeezing stuff off. Yeah, although we're, at this point in time now, we're starting to smuggle corned beef sandwiches and things up, during the Mercury Gemini era. During the Gemini program, you have these food bars that you're utilizing. That's, 28 man days there. Yum. Looks absolutely delicious, doesn't it? So, obviously you're not seeing food, you're seeing the wrapper, but still, it's pretty obvious. Then you get into the Apollo program, well, now we're dehydrating foods, partially hydrating things. We're, injecting them with water, we're squeezing them up, we got hot water, heat them up a little bit, but it's still like eating food paste, for the most part. There are other things added in, little cheese crackers or sandwiches, or hot dogs were extremely popular because you didn't really need to do much except for add a little bit of water to them, and they were good. So. Skylab, now we're starting to eat on trays. Ooh, it's almost like a TV dinner. We're into the 70s here, so with TV dinners, your juice bottle, as it were, making coffee. This is actually a food warmer tray. Some of the stuff was canned. Soviets have almost always used canned food. That's the way that they've packaged things, as we remember from that discussion. Yeah, there they are. Now you have a kitchen. You actually can eat communally there in the kitchen. With your feet locked down on the decking there, so and all eating together. You have an Apollo Soyuz test project, and we're eating the food from the Apollo program, etc. We're starting to get ready for the shuttle program here eventually, but here you're still using some squeeze tube food, borscht and things from the Russians. So they actually had alcohol up there too. So okay, you get into the shuttle days. Now you can strap your tray onto your knee. You've got a little heating oven that you can heat your food with. You still can't have cold drinks. There's no refrigerator on the shuttle. Strangely enough, you're in the middle of space. You can't have anything cold to drink at this point in time. And the food is getting better and better. Partially dehydrated. Some of it completely dehydrated. And you can get some specialties, as you can see here. Tortillas are favorites up in space, to eat, so they're easy to eat with. But all of this stuff eventually, you can eat by yourself. You can eat with a group. But you got to eat when you're up in space. And if you eat, eventually, you got to go, too. You eat, you drink, you pee, you poop. It's just kind of nature. So, in any case, we're going to get into the see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil stuff here as we go through the lecture. Basic quote, best one I've ever heard about going to the bathroom in space. Rusty Schweikert, there ain't no graceful way. Okay, so, here on Earth, when we go to the bathroom, we have a friend that helps us. For our younger two people in the audience over there, what's that friend that helps us? And don't say your brother or sister.
Toilet?
Well, a toilet, yes. Gravity. Gravity helps us, because what comes out of us wants to go towards the middle of the Earth, okay? Wants to get down towards that center of gravity of the Earth. It gets drawn downward. So if you're sitting on the toilet in the appropriate position, and something comes out of you, it goes down into the toilet. Yay, good. Down into the water, you flush it away, down to wherever it might go. Okay? Depends, different for everybody's house. So, but that's what happens. And if you're going number one, male or female, that liquid is not going to go up. It may go up temporarily, depending on the position you're in. Much more difficult for women than it is for men. But in any case, that may go up temporarily or out temporarily, but that liquid eventually is going to go down. And it's going to go towards the earth, usually and hopefully into a toilet, or if you're a man, against a tree, whatever. So, but it's going to go down. Well, in space, if you're orbiting around the earth, you're in constant free fall. So you're falling towards the earth. So we call it always, quote unquote, zero gravity. It's not. There is gravity up there. You're just falling towards the earth. You're offsetting the gravity. So it's a microgravity environment. But essentially, it feels like you're floating around, and things float around everywhere. So if you urinate or you defecate, if you pee or you poo, that stuff's just going to float around, and that's not good. Not good for equipment, not good for you, not good for your fellow astronaut breathing it in. Okay, the last thing you want to do is inhale somebody's, well, yeah, you know. Okay, in any case though, so we'll go back to the early days. We go back to Mercury. When Alan Shepard flies on that first mission, NASA didn't take into account any restroom facilities, no bathroom. No way for him to go to the bathroom. He was only supposed to be in the capsule for 5 hours, and they figured an astronaut could hold it for 5 hours. While you're in there, from the time that you bolted him in, till the time that you launched him, till the time that you recovered him, unbolted him, and got him out. Well, he was in there for longer than that, and like any good Navy guy, decided to drink some coffee before he went up there. Okay? Drank enough coffee. I'm going to drink some now. Excuse me. I apologize for my voice. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm on the down end of a head cold kind of thing. So, in any case, yeah, he was out there for a while and needed to go to the bathroom, requested repeatedly to go, and they said no, figuring they were going to launch soon, et cetera, et cetera. Well, eventually they realized that their technical difficulties were going to take longer and going to take them longer to correct than his bladder could hold out, so they finally gave him permission to go to the bathroom. He urinated inside of his suit. He's laying in a recumbent position on the couch. Pee goes in, shorts out sensors, etc. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Lost some sensors, doing it. But regardless, he did urinate in his suit, and that was the only option that he had at the time. As we continue along, NASA, though, at this point in time, it's not like they'd never thought about it. They had. There were options. They could have put in catheters and things like that. So they just weren't thinking it was necessary at that point in time. They knew for the orbital flights for certain, because remember that Shepard and Grissom on those first 2 Mercury flights, those were just up and down. 15-minute flights is what they were supposed to be. But when you get into the orbital flights, now you're talking hours. And they knew that they were going to have something for the astronauts to be able to go to the bathroom, and so they were working on it. By the way, here's your biggest problem inside of a Mercury capsule. There ain't no room to do anything in there. So it's a tight, constrained space. Wally Schirra described it as you didn't climb into a Mercury capsule, you strapped it on. So, and in any case, whatever solution you were going to have was going to have to work within that very cramped and crowded environment where you literally could just kind of move your arms a little bit, and that was it. So, kind of looking like something else that we know about, which I won't go into any detail on. For our first orbital missions for John Glenn and beyond, they created a system with, shall we say, a sleeve that would slide onto the male appendage that had a small tube that went to a retaining bag. That was the solution. And if he needed to pee, he would pee into that, and he would fill this bag, which he did, with an amount that was actually greater, quote unquote, than what the normal human bladder should be able to hold. But that John Glenn had very good bladder control during this time frame. One of the other interesting things about space is that your bladder gets its cues from gravity, okay? Pushing down, and creating some pressure with the fluid inside. Well, you get into space and everything floats around, so it takes longer for you to realize that pressure. So your bladder can actually be much more full than you expect by the time you realize that you need to go to the bathroom. So, go to the bathroom more frequently in space. In any case, like I said, a little retaining bag that was attached as well via tube, etc., etc., etc. Simple, inelegant, but it works. Then you get into the Gemini program. Well, kind of doing the same thing now here. So sometimes with catheters, sometimes with slip-on sleeves, etc., over urinating into bags to retain the urine, defecating into bags as well. We'll get into a little bit more on that on the Apollo program because I got better diagrams from the Apollo program. But essentially what they use in the Gemini program, they use in the Apollo program to defecate into. But they're urinating into these bags and then storing them inside the cabin, inside of a locker, which sounds great except for two problems. One, there's always some leakage. Two, you stuff enough bags into a locker, something breaks. These guys, when they came back, the folks who opened up their capsule nearly died. So, because it stank to high heaven. So, when they came back, they tried cleaning it and everything afterwards. So, because they had had bags broken on their flight. So, a little bit interesting, unpleasant, and to this day, they keep that capsule sealed up. Gemini program, once again, you got a little bit more room to move around now, so you can deal with number two, shall we say, a little bit more efficiently, because you can get up. But just imagine, we think about, bathrooms, and this, it's not necessarily the most private thing. When we're sitting in a stall and there's another person in a stall next to us with a wall in between us, there ain't nothing in between you and your buddy in this situation. So you're inside the front seats of a Volkswagen, going to the bathroom, etc., next to each other. Okay, now I'm going to skip into Apollo here, kind of just, this is where we'll get into a lot more diagrams as we go through Apollo, Shuttle, and Skylab and the ISS. So we'll have a little bit of fun with this one. This is the basic gear that an astronaut's going to be wearing when they get up in space and they go out for a moonwalk. This is a lot of Neil Armstrong's gear right here. So that's what you see up there. So you've got the liquid cooling garment here. Excuse me, apologize for that. So you've got things like watch, spacesuit, gloves, the boots, although see that they've actually got shoes on, and then they've actually got a black underglove that will go right here, but then these fit on over. You've got your helmet, your Snoopy cap, it's going to be over for communications. Over here you got a urine collection device as well. It is going to be hooked up to you. It is going to be run inside of your suit, and then it will, as you can see, it's like a little bladder, it will collect urine for you and hold it around your waist while you're out walking around doing spacewalk, either on the moon or free floating during an EVA. Okay, the Apollo capsule itself had a system for taking care of urine, and they could dump it overboards. So you literally had hoses, a urine transfer system, valves, etc. You had a tank that would collect the urine, and then at specified times as the tank filled up, you would have to do a urine dump. Literally, you open up the valves to the exterior of the spacecraft, much less pressure outside than there is inside where the tank is. So the urine is going to evacuate out of the tank into space and form little ice crystals. Little urine ice crystals, which the astronauts talked about were some of the most beautiful things that they looked at, because it did form a cloud of ice crystals around them. Absolutely gorgeous. There's the joke about it. You heard it during the movie, probably Apollo 13, the constellation Urine. So, in any case, though, on the other hand, you're not getting the poop off the spaceship in any easy way. You're still collecting it in a fecal bag, and then you're putting it into boxes and lockers and storing it on board, and bringing it back and having people study it after you get back. Yay! So, I'm going to talk about the indignities of it. So, up here, what you're going to urinate into goes into a line, and then you've got a bag over there, and then you can transfer it into, you can either pee into a bag, or you can pee into the urine transfer system. So, kind of two options with it. Here is a little bit more of a close-up of one of the urine collection and transfer assembly that you would wear on the spacesuit if you were doing an EVA. It's obviously folded back here. You've got kind of the wings that are folded back that would fit around here, around your hips. So this one was from the Skylab, one of the Skylab missions, not utilized. Although the museum I came from, the Cosmosphere, we had a few of the essentially the astronaut diapers in our collection that I'll get into here in a little bit, and we had two of them that were actually used. Those were not on display. Okay, picture showing the hosing that was attached to it. I'm going to skip through some of this. How you would wear it. Connections on, the connection that he's on there is not for the urine transfer system. That's actually for the liquid cooling garment. So I'm just kind of showing you how the astronaut would wear it over the liquid cooling garment that they had underneath. Remember, the liquid cooling garment was what was utilized to keep them cool as they were out doing a spacewalk. Everybody thinks, oh, you're going to get cold in space. No, actually, they got hot because you're wearing a big, gigantic snowsuit, essentially, spacesuit in this situation, that retains all of your heat on the inside. If you start working, you generate a lot of heat on the inside of that, and it's got nowhere to go. So you actually have to cool yourself off. Hence the need for having a liquid cooling garment that you wear underneath. And we still do it today. We still wear liquid cooling garments, and you'll see them later when we go out and do spacewalks on the space station, etc. And there was a way to transfer out of the suit, over on your right leg, the water, urine, etc. Okay. So, if you needed to go number 2, this is a good quote, came from the Apollo 7 crew. Get naked, allow about an hour, and have plenty of tissues available. So, once again, there ain't no graceful way. Because the way that you had to go number 2, Gemini and Apollo programs, we don't have a toilet on board a spacecraft until we get into the Skylab program. So now we have much better toilets as well, and I'll start showing those eventually. But if you had to go number 2, you had to use a DCD, defecation collection device. NASA's got to have an acronym for everything, and a strange name for everything. What is it? It's a bag. You got your tissues that are in the bag, and all this is inside the bag. You've got this gel that's in there that helps kind of take care of smells, and also then coagulates what goes into the bag, shall we say, and then sanitizing wipes as well to utilize afterwards. But the key element to this is the bag. And what you're looking at here is you have a very wide rim on this, okay, on this plastic bag. It's about that wide. It goes all the way around the outside. And then you have the bag that goes down. And then note this right here. There's kind of a little hole right here, and there's this bit that sticks up. So the way that they did it literally is this has sticky material onto it. Think like a 3M test strip. You know, those things that we use. You peel off the top of it. You hopefully get it in the right position, right over that hole, and you stick it to yourself. Mind you, you practice this on Earth to try and make sure that you do get it into the right position so that you know what it feels like when that bag is in the right position. And you attach it to yourself and you go. Hopefully everything goes out of you into the bag. But as you know, gravity helps out with this on Earth. In space, you don't have that gravity, so the stuff's going to kind of float out of you, as it were, hopefully get towards the other end of the bag, but you're going to have to help it along a little bit. And that's what this is. It's a little finger thing that you can insert in there, from the outside of the bag in there, and you can kind of help it along, shall we say. And if necessary, you can also kind of finger pick yourself if something is sticking to you. Sounded dignified? Yeah, definitely. So, and not 100% efficient. You're going to get, shall we say, some leakage in this system, most likely. So, after you finish, hopefully at this point in time, you wipe yourself up, throw everything into that bag, seal it up nice and tight, and put it into the storage locker, and thank goodness that you've taken care of that. And you don't have to do that for a little while longer. But it's going to come up again, shall we say, or come out again. So another picture of it. This is actually from one of the NASA manuals. You can see a little bit better where that hole is there for the finger to be utilized. These are actual quotes from the Apollo 10 mission. Okay, as they're evolutionists. Oh, who did it? Command module pilot. Who did what? LMP, lunar module pilot. What? Commander, who did it? They're starting to laugh now. Where'd that come from? Give me an active quick. There's a turd floating through the air. Command module pilot. I didn't do it. It ain't one of mine. Lunar module pilot. I don't think it's one of mine. Commander, mine was a little more sticky than that. Throw that away. Command module pilot. God almighty. 5 days, 13 hours, 30 minutes, 6 seconds is when this occurs. Okay? 38 minutes, about 8 minutes later. Okay, as you get down here. whoops. They told us that, here's another goddamn turd. Pardon the language, sorry. Okay, what's the matter with you guys? Here, give me it. They're laughing now. Well, babe, it was me. I sure would know I was sleeping on the floor. It was just floating around? Yes, mine was stickier than that. Mine was too. It hit that bag. When I stuck my finger in mine was too soft. Gosh darn it, laughter. I don't know whose that is. I can neither claim it nor disclaim it from the pilot. So yeah, it was going to get out, and it was going to float around. So the last thing you wanted to breathe in was that. So in any case, yeah, it was not the most efficient system in the world, but it worked, and it got us to the moon and back. So, but yeah, there were lighthearted moments like that. That's just one. That's just one. There were many things like that. So. Eventually, we do get a little bit better. We get into the Skylab program, and actually you can go up to our 4th floor on 4 Bravo, and we have one of the old prototype Skylab toilets up there. You can kind of see something that looks, and this is a little bit dark, this section right back here, you'll notice an opening right here, and that's a toilet. And you can see that's going to be a very odd position to be sitting on it, you know, and going to the bathroom, but with some fans, with a little bit of suction, you're going to be able to take that stuff away from you and pull it away and put it into storage, shall we say. You're also going to have a hose that comes off of it that you can utilize for urine as well with an adapter. Another thing you can go and take a look at, even in the early days of the 1960s, we were taking a look at the idea of a toilet in a spacecraft, obviously a bigger spacecraft than Mercury or Gemini, and even Apollo. But in the back corner, you can't see it from right here because it's behind the big pillar, there is a concept toilet, very early on, concept toilet from the space program that is on display back there. It literally had a toilet that would kind of rotate out away from it that you could sit down on, and then you can see where the hose is with the adapter on it for males to utilize the restroom. Little bit better picture of the Skylab toilet here. This picture's from the National Aerospace Museum. And the material, the other thing is you still did have the option, you could take this off, go to the bathroom in it, it had a filter to filter the smell on the bag where you went, but not really super different from the early days of the Apollo program. Sorry. Trying to move on. Okay. The most beautiful sight in orbit is the urine dump at sunset. Rusty Schweiker. Okay, so we move into the days of the shuttle program. So hopefully we're getting better, and we are. So, but still, you got to do things like walk in space, and you can't put a toilet outside. You don't have an outhouse outside the spacecraft that a person who's doing a spacewalk wanders on over to, opens up the door, takes off their spacesuit, goes to the bathroom in, puts their spacesuit back on, and then goes back out on their spacewalk. You're going to have to go to the bathroom while you're all alone in your own little individual spacesuit. Or your own little individual spacecraft, which is really what this is, if you think about it. So how do we do that? Well, astronaut diapers, which were eventually made famous by a female astronaut who drove cross-country from Texas to Florida in an attempt to, quote-unquote, take care of another astronaut who was, at that point in time, had broken up with her and now was seeing another female astronaut, yeah, whatever. So, and she had astronaut diapers with her. I don't remember, was she wearing them? I think she just had them in the trunk.
She had them in the trunk,
But she was not wearing them. But she had them in there so in case she would not have to stop driving. In any case, these can collect a lot of fluid. The technology is really no different than what we utilize today and have been utilizing for years for babies, you know, to be wearing when you've got the diapers for pull-ups for toddlers and young kids, for adult diapers, shall we say. Same idea for incontinence issues. Yeah, that's, you know, NASA, they're essentially adult diapers, but NASA can't call them astronaut diapers or adult diapers. They have to come up with a name for them. Disposable Absorption Containment Trunk. DACT. So, quite complicated, etc. So, somewhat individually fitted at this point in time, early days in the shuttle program. They would have the name on it, you know, who it was for, because they were fitted for each individual person. But essentially, it was a pull-up diaper. It was just like a pull-up that we would utilize with the toddler. By the way, this is one of the containment bags over here, so you kind of see the rim on that over there. So, but in any case, though, they would wear this underneath the spacesuit, underneath the liquid cooling garment that they're wearing on the spacewalk. For urine collection, they will have a system set up that they have a collection bag for, which we'll see here in just a little bit. There's another picture of a DACT. And then eventually you get into the maximum absorbency garment, the MAG. So as we move into the more modern days, from the DACT to the MAGs, okay, call it an astronaut diaper, well, that's what it is. Looks a little bit different. Here you can see somebody holding one, not an astronaut. So, but in any case, looks a little bit more like what we're used to seeing, kind of generic, one size fits all, because you really don't need anything form-fitted for everybody. You can make them kind of generic and they work just fine. So, showing here, more modern, just want you to see liquid cooling garment. For those of you who know, recognize Steve Bowen. So, on the right-hand side there, good friend. So, I always try to slip in a picture of Steve in every presentation. So, excuse me. But here, the whole liquid cooling garment, top to bottom, and you'll wear this underneath. The hose connections over there are for the water, for the urine collection. But you'll see that there are openings for urine collection devices, shall we say, to be attached on the outside of the maximum absorbency garment. Eventually, we're going to have to figure out how to do the same thing with the Z2 suits. I bring this up just to let you know that we're getting one of these, a Z2 suit. We're going to be one of the first 4 institutions in the United States to get one of the Z2 suits to put on display. Should be here in about a month and a half. Okay. In any case, though, and by the way, the urine collection is done essentially the same as the Apollo program. There's really not much different. You just have better bagging for it, shall we say, and better tubing. So, but it's still done the same. You have a collection bag. It's alongside of you. You urinate. You go into it. You store it. You come back off the spacewalk. You try not to spill. You put it away. On the shuttle, which is where we're looking at right here, they had a toilet. So, but just kind of to give you the idea of the indignity of it. So you have where you get in and out of the spacecraft here. This is on the mid-deck, below the cockpit. You have the seats right here, and then there's a wall. I mean, literally there's a wall right here. When you're in those seats, you can reach out and touch that wall. So that's how close that is. And then you see the lady back here with a hatch. This goes back out to the airlock that goes out to the payload bay. And then the wall over here, you're seeing, is about right here. And then right above where this person who's taking the picture is standing is a hatch that goes up. Right over here on this side up is a hatch. Your galley's right over here. And right there behind this gentleman, you can almost just barely see it, is where the toilet is. And the only thing that you have to separate you from everybody else as you are taking care of business is a curtain that goes up there. So every sound you make, every grunt, every groan, every whatever is going to be heard by everybody as you are sitting on the toilet. So let's go. And we're going to kind of show shuttle and International Space Station toilets, kind of a lot of intermixed stuff. But the basic thing being is that you can see there's a seat with a hole. Okay, there are a couple of bars that are right here. That's so that you don't float away, because when you push down and you're going to the bathroom, which you're not really pushing down, you're pushing out. Okay, but regardless, if you push off at all a little bit on that bottom, you'll go away. The further you get away from this, the worse the situation becomes, because going to the bathroom in space is all about suction, and you need to maintain good suction, which means you need to maintain a good seal, essentially, shall we say, your rear end onto this right here. So they have these bars that you pull over, and you put on your thighs, and it helps hold you down on the seat. All around you, you have dry wipes, you have trash bags, you're going to have lockers for your adapters that, for when you use, you'll see here in a moment. Let me think it's on the next one. Whoops, it's not on the next one. There's going to be a tube that comes up that you attach your urine adapter for, different for the male and the female, as we'll see eventually here, etc. Waste collection system. There's a manual for operating it, because it's not like here on Earth where you sit down, go, and flush it. No. Because there's got to be all sorts of things going. So you have a commode control system. Prior to defecation, pull up, wait 15 seconds, push forward. It's like you're driving a Maserati. Go! Yeah, you can almost see it. Okay? Commoded manual, EMU, waste control system on, etc. And definitely read the directions and definitely do them in the right order. I've always talked, and I had some very great discussions about this with folks like Al Bean and Charlie Duke and Buzz Aldrin and stuff like that, about the similarities between submarining and space, flying in space. There's tons of similarities. I mean, the basic thing being is that you're living inside of a metal container surrounded by an environment that's trying to kill you constantly, and you have to recycle your own air, creature and water, etc., 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 etc. So there's a lot of similarities. The toilets are very similar in this situation. So although in space, we've got gravity on the submarine. Yay, thank God. So in space, they don't, but they have to pull the material away from you. We don't have to worry about that. We've got gravity that helps out with that one. But getting the stuff into space, if it's urine and things like that, real easy on a spaceship. Open up that valve, it's gone. Space wants it. It's going to suck it out, On a submarine, not so much. You got that ocean pressure trying to push it back in. And so there's procedures for both, and you have to follow them step by step, or it can get very ugly. On a submarine, I'll tell you, it can get very ugly, because if you open up the wrong valves in the wrong order, remember that tank potentially could be pressurized so that it blows the stuff out to sea. And if you open up that valve and that tank is pressurized, everything that's in the tank doesn't go out to sea. It comes in at you at very high pressure. And you hear it all over the ship. You hear two things. You hear the as the stuff is coming out, and you hear the sailor going at the same time. And the worst part is that not only have you taken care of yourself, you're the one who gets to clean it all up. There's a reason why submarine toilets are all stainless steel. Everything in there is stainless steel. In any case, though, very similar situations. Procedures. So Suni Williams here, she is holding the hose from the waste system, and she's saying if you're going to go number one, so you have to attach an adapter to the end of it. Different for males and females. Like I said, the male one is pretty much just a tube that you're going to insert over yourself and go into. For females, it is a cup, or a kind of a cup more like that. You'll see some examples of it here in just a little bit. Once again, you're trying to get as much suction as possible, and not sink yourself, as it were, too far into it, because that can be problematic as well. Where that tube is right here, so that you can either go by just number one if you need to go just number one, or while you're sitting and going number two, you can go number one as well. Most astronauts find it easier to go number one than number two, so that they separate the functions, shall we say. So places all color-coded for your adapters, for your towels, once again, all your supplies, etc., etc., etc. Excuse me, I can tell my voice is weak. Okay, that's a little bit better. In any case, Russian side, not that different. Toilet down at the bottom here is what you're looking at. And then you have a very long tube up here that you'll have adapters for, etc., etc. So that's just a Russian version of the toilet. On the International Space Station, there are Russian and US versions. And each of them has, at various assorted times, broken. So it's good that they have a backup. I just thought this was funny. For a quote in the middle of this, in every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. It's indignified, but there is a little bit of fun to it as well. There's a trainer at Johnson Space Center. Before an astronaut flies up into space, you have to train how to go to the bathroom. There's good reason for this. So, in any case, what they have, you can see that there is a video camera. Well, actually a video screen here. Inside of this toilet, there is a video camera. So, they will come in, they will give you training on how to do this, and they will then set it up for you to be able to, they shut the door, they go away, and then you work on the system. And what you're really trying to do is, it's all about alignment. Okay? You want your hole to be over that hole directly. Now, here on Earth, we don't have a problem. Toilet, you know, this big around. The hole coming out of us, about that big, you sit down on the toilet, there's no doubt your appropriate hole is over that big gigantic opening with the water in it. Real easy, you know, and we take care of business. In space, sitting down that toilet, you're talking about a hole that the stuff's going into that's about that big, and your hole's about this big, and they have to be aligned directly for the suction really to work well, to pull that material away from you and not let it float back out. Which, once again, is bad. You don't want the floating poop in the people tank, so, or the pee or anything else like that. Breathing, that stuff, not good. Not good. So in any case, you will sit yourself down and you're looking at the video camera until you can, by the way, you have to have your bottom half of your clothes off, obviously, until you can see that you're properly aligned. The video camera's in the 0 point position, and you make sure your hole is right over it, and then you get a feel for what that feels like. You pull the bars over, and you can feel how that toilet seat, which is very contoured, and the bars, how it feels when it's on you and you're in the right position. Because when you're in space, you're going to be floating around, and it's going to be tough to get into that position. And you want to know what it feels like very well. Yes?
Is that complete with crosshairs?
You're looking at the picture here. The answer is no. Yep, so it should, in my personal opinion. So, in any case, though, yeah, I love it. There are instructions, so for absolutely everything. Where was it here? Yeah. Sit down on trainer seat and spread buttocks. It just, there's nothing dignified about it, you know. So if you're going to be an astronaut, every single one of them has always said the same thing. You kind of have to give up a lot of your dignity. You're just going to be doing things in front of other people that you normally would not do, unless you were married to them, potentially. So, and you're not married to any of these other 6 crew members that you're up there with. So they're going to know more about you sometimes than even your spouse might. So, in any case, though, deactivate picture control switch before each practice run, so that positioning accuracy will only be affected by external visual cues and feel. Only use TV to confirm position. So after you've done this a few times where you're looking, then you have to sit down, get yourself in position, put it over, then flip on the TV camera to see if you got it right. Then turn it off, get off, go over, get back, sit down, get yourself in position, click it on, got it, you know, etc., etc. So yeah, kind of dignified, but very useful. Very useful. Okay, here we're looking at Mir space station and Soyuz spacecraft toilets. You're going to get a number of different views of them here. You can kind of see, you know, hole going into a tank, urine collection device that you can attach on here. Similar views, kind of small. This is on the Russian side. This is much earlier, obviously, in the program. Like I said, in a much smaller spacecraft on the Soyuz side. The Mir was much larger, but still had a pretty rudimentary toilet on the Mir space station. Skylab was more advanced. Now the Russian toilet, US toilet, they're both great. Here, just you're kind of coming around all of the different views. That's just a cover that goes over it to keep it covered up. Okay, and on the Russian side here, okay, you can sit and urinate. Kind of holding this in position. Lots of fun. Same idea right here. Okay? Different systems that have been used over the years. Yeah, I love the handle though.
Yeah.
It's like you're on a pogo stick going to the bathroom. Okay, once again, a little bit better view of the Russian toilet. Works on the same principle, nothing too crazy. You're going to have a fan that's going to turn on, it's going to suck the number 2 away from you into a holding tank. You've got the fan also is pulling the urine into the system. But always a little bit of humor here. So, space station toilet on the US side, here's what it looks like nowadays. Not that different. You're seeing some of the adapters for it. Same bars, et cetera, et cetera. But we have this now, too. So, water recovery system, okay, on the space station. You've heard numbers, you know, like, oh, they recycle 90, no, actually it's in the 70s as far as the percentage of recycled waste. But what goes out gets reutilized again. Because the less weight that you need to bring up with you to space is less cost. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring stuff up to space. Water, you want to limit the amount of water you need to bring up to space. So what you want to try and do is reutilize as much of the water on board. So astronauts sweat, they perspire. That goes off into the atmosphere. The fans collect that and it goes off, and then it goes into the water recovery system. They drink fluids, coffee, etc. They urinate. That water goes out of them. It goes into the waste recovery system, and it gets processed, refiltered, separated with centrifuges, etc., etc. Not that different than what we do here on Earth. Okay, it's just done in space. We can do this here on Earth, you know. Recycle everything, and you can re-drink, you know, what came out of you. If you get everything out of it that is not water, then you can drink the water afterwards, and so they do. And they save a lot of weight and a lot of water by doing that. Most of what you're seeing here is the filters and the centrifuges, et cetera, that are utilized to separate out the particulate matter, the different ions and elements that are in there that are not straight up water, H2O. Yeah?
Before you leave the toilets, was there ever any catastrophic failure in space, like a toilet would burster?
Yes, there have. There have been failures of toilets. You know, where just on the ISS, there's a good it's very good that they have two of them up there, because they had lost one and had to use the other, then lost the other and had to use that one. So there have been problems with the shuttle toilet where it failed and they had to just collect everything and go in bags, et cetera, go back to Apollo days essentially. But as far as, you know, like the fan operating backwards and spewing poop and stuff like that, no, I've not heard of any situations like that. I have heard of fan failures and things and having to grab stuff out of the air, you know, but nothing totally catastrophic. But trying to be a plumber in space when you're actually an astronaut who's probably an engineer or scientist or something, yeah, it's not easy, and they have had to do that. So, and not always the most dignified thing to do as well. So, you get a little bit messy. Water recovery system, this is just kind of showing how it goes in wastewater, feed tanks, etc., into the various assorted pumps, reverse osmosis units, so, etc. Yeah, the astronauts have got a joke about it. Yesterday's coffee, today's coffee. This is when they first started operating the system, and they were just kind of, this was a PR stunt, pure and simple. And that's basically saying, yep, here's what we urinated into, and it's yesterday's coffee, and we're drinking stuff today, and we turned it into today's coffee. Okay. This is just a picture I'm showing. This is from the days, you know, Apollo shuttle, etc. There actually is a toilet up at the top of the tower. So, and yeah, closed before launch. Kind of important. But if somebody needs to go while they're up there, you've actually got a toilet even on the, you know, has nothing to do with flying in space, but you know, in any case, just wanted you to kind of see that one. Yes, when the space station has toilet problems, you know, yeah, you're going to get all sorts of cartoons about it as well. And that kind of finishes up the discussion. So we're, you know, what questions may you or may you not have? I'll take one or two questions. Yes?
When they evacuated the urine and so on, you know, in the orbit, did they encounter that same cloud as it came back around?
It's going to disperse out away from the spacecraft pretty quickly. Not so much that you're going to re-encounter the cloud, you know, so because it is going to go away, because that, once again, in space, if you give something impetus, if you give it motion, it will continue to move in that direction away from you, and then you won't really encounter it again. So because of, you know, tank, vacuum of space, it goes out, and it just keeps going away. So very pretty. The thing that they did see is that it turns into ice crystals instantaneously. And they saw with the Russian space station that with the location that they had it, it was causing some damage to solar panels and things like that. So you have to choose very carefully where you put the urine dump so that what does go out just goes away in a direction that is not going to impinge or interact with anything that you don't want it to, because yes, it goes out liquid, but it's liquid for that long, and then instantaneously it's ice crystals. So that's the only thing I think that really probably more plays into that rather than you re-encountering said cloud or anything like that. So. But you're not going to be able to do a star shot, looking in that direction for a little while because the ice crystals are going to...
It's not like the big blue ice thing that comes from airplanes.
Well, to tell you the truth, when you take a look at the shuttle, and the shuttle did have this problem, the urinsicles, essentially, where the urine dump was, you could get essentially a big icicle coming off, which the fear there is that, coming back in, that detaches and damages something, on the shuttle. Which mission was it that had the massive urinsicle?
That was early on, like 31D.
Yeah,
and
it was.
They studied it, and they're worrying, can we bump it off with a robot arm, or just what do we do about it?
Yeah, and then they fretted over it quite a bit because it just kept growing and growing and growing. Eventually it broke off. So they didn't have to deal with it. So it broke off on its own. Normally it wasn't a problem, but that mission it did, so, and yeah, that's something that you have to think about as well, so.
Well, it can throw the balance off, too.
No, with spacecraft balance, because once you start, the only thing where you'd have balance issues was once you're in the atmosphere flying like an airplane. In space, it doesn't matter, so only thing that matters up there is momentum kind of thing, so. So not an issue, and by the time you got in, it would be gone based on coming through the atmosphere, etc. So, other questions? Yes?
We didn't cover anything about showers. I know Skylab was equipped with a shower.
Yes.
And it was a curtain system.
Mm-hmm.
I've had done quite a bit of research for one space station, and my solution was a 1G environment, or at least simulated gravity assault.
Mm-hmm.
When I thought about 0G, I had concerns about how they did it with Skylab, because with Skylab they took basically one real full shower, even though they attempted it a number of times. They weren't able to just get it to work in 0G. They talked about an off-center centrifugal system where the man would still be standing inside of the female,
Mm-hmm.
and would be able to be in an offset tube, and that tube would spin at a certain rotation, very slow, so that you weren't disoriented while you were showering. Did they do any further research on that system? I've only found preliminary studies.
I've not seen any truly detailed stuff on it because they found that you're just as fine with using limited amounts of water and better chemical cleaning agents, that are essentially no water shampoos and soaps and things like that. So, yeah, they miss the showers, but you just need enough water just to slightly rinse, like your hair, get it into a cloth and wipe the stuff off of your body, etc. And as opposed to soap here on Earth, which you wouldn't want to use in space, because it's, you have to rinse it quite a bit with water to get it off. They came up with better chemicals to utilize. They dealt with it chemically rather than using physics, because it's a ton of space, and the amount of water necessary for a shower doesn't justify what you get out of it.
Right.
That's what they discovered really during Skylab. It was a good experiment, and it just proved that it's a waste. It uses too much water for what you're really getting out of it. As opposed to utilizing the low soap chemicals that you can to clean your hair, shampoo, shave with, everything,
Right.
and then just utilizing a little bit of water to rinse off everything felt just as good, essentially.
And a quick follow-up, washer and dryer. I saw where they created a complete system, never deployed it. Now, I understand that they were using water jet power inside a bag to agitate the cloth to create the cleaning method. What they didn't discuss in any detail that I was able to read was how effective it was, if it was 60%, 80%.
I've never read anything on that either. The only thing that I know is that they came up with the same conclusion. Didn't make sense for the types of missions we were flying.
Right.
It'll make sense for a much longer mission, potentially, when you can't carry up enough clothes, as it were.
Yeah, I'm thinking Mars.
And that's what they do these days. They take a bunch of clothes up with them, change them out about every week, and then if you're on a long duration mission like Kelly was and just came back to Earth, they send up more clothes. And then send, you know, and that's the way that they deal with it. So it may come into play, but water's an issue for long term, yeah.
I've got 2 questions about number 1. In the water recovery system, one, what is the byproducts of that are not water, and secondly, what are they doing?
You've got storage tanks, and bags. You've got a lot of, essentially, if you think about it, your body exudes off a lot of, you know, whether it be like calcium, minerals, things like that are in your urine, stuff that the doctors normally test for, goes off. That stuff can just be dumped overboard, just like a urine dump, you know, kind of thing. So, and then some of the chemicals are actually, you know, kept, and then you can just dispose of them essentially with a bag kind of thing. The number 2, just so you know, in case the question does come up, you know, it's saved in bags that are sealed automatically by the system. I mean, I jokingly say it, for those of you who've seen The Martian, you know that idea where you hear that, and then the little bag drops out, you know, or whatever, so it's dehydrated or whatever. Okay. It gets bagged up, it does, and then it goes into, you know, a container, and then eventually when they have a Progress spacecraft or one of the other ones that comes up on a resupply mission, you know, because we have multiple companies now that are sending up resupply missions. SpaceX's Dragons come back to Earth. All the other ones just burn up on re-entry. So guess what happens to the poop? They throw it into one of those spacecraft and it just burns up on re-entry. So they dispose of it in our atmosphere. And those are very carefully calculated, just so everybody knows, so that it's not going to land over, you know, land mass. They do it in the middle of a gigantic ocean, you know, kind of thing. And it's, yeah. So as opposed to Skylab 2, which we couldn't control when it was coming down, they can really control these ones. So,
how much water do they actually take up there to replenish Skylab?
boy, it varies on the resupply missions. And I don't have a good answer for the latest resupply missions, how much water they're taking up on each one. But it comes up in pretty good size containers, I know that. So, but I am not sure how many gallons go up.
Last time I checked, there was 2 bags.
Yeah.
So you have 2,
Yeah.
roughly equivalent 30-gallon bags.
It's not a ton. They are recycling, you know, once again, they're recycling so much, and, you know, you're utilizing less up there when you're in space, you know, so, because you don't have the same stresses on your body. Anybody see the thing with Kelly when he came back and his twin, you know, when they stood next to each other? He was 2 inches taller. Then within a day and a half, they were the same height again. That's how quickly his spine recompressed. So, yeah. Sorry, total offshoot. So, but yeah, not a ton. It is just a little bit. Used to take up more until they got the water recovery system up there. And that was a big deal because they had to have frequent resupplies. But your shuttle could carry a ton of that stuff. And we were flying the shuttle all the time, and it was always going to the space station. Well, now you're flying a smaller craft. You need to be more circumspect about what you take up and how you take it up. So that's the water recovery system allows them to send up much, much less. So, any other questions? Yes, sir?
Was it a day?
I'm trying to remember if I ever saw any research on a bidet. I've never seen anything on it. Have you did? I never saw anything on it as well.
I think it would become a real fluid management nightmare.
Yeah, that's one, because the problem there is that most everything is just trying to pull it away from you. With a bidet, the idea is to shoot it towards you. And yeah. Yeah, I don't see a way to make it work, and I don't think they'd ever even try it because of what a bidet really is, you know. So, and I've never seen anything on it. I had to kind of go through the data bank there a second to see if I could ever remember seeing that the ESA or anything ever did it, you know, because the U.S. side's never taken a look at it. I know that. I've never seen anything in any NASA research on it. I was just trying to think if the ESA might have ever done it, and I haven't seen any. If there is, I'd be interested to hear about it. So, because that just to me seems insane.
What you could do with that piece, liquefied piece, if you dump it out in space.
Yeah. So, yep.
Actually, you can't, by international treaty, you cannot dump solid waste.
Waste it straight into space. You have to bring it back in and dump it in the ocean. Yeah.
I had a question concerning when you dump stuff in space. In the early 60s, 70s, I designed spacecraft instruments, and one of our big concerns was you get a lens looking out to space, you want nothing to coat it. Anything coats it, that's the end of your instrument. They have to be careful when they dump. Because I know the shuttle took instruments into space. It could be dumping when there's instruments out there.
There's instruments open, and like I said, the direction that everything goes is away from anything that would be sensitive. So, and it's not like there's a breeze up there to redirect it, you know, so it's going to go away. So it's really not an issue.
But we knew the spacecraft had their own atmosphere, and that would coat our optics sometimes. And screw
Yeah, that's
things up.
internal to the spacecraft, though, kind of thing. So not around it. Once it gets up there, there's nothing around it. So once that material goes away from the spacecraft, it's going to continue going that direction. It's not like trying to pee off the bridge of a submarine where you really got to make sure that you know what direction the wind is going.
Every material has a vapor pressure in the atmosphere.
Yep.
Just how dense it is the problem.
Yep. Any other questions here? We got time for maybe one more of those. Yes, sir.
I would imagine people develop space sickness.
Yes.
Occasionally regurgitate. Did
Yes.
it happen?
Yep, happens.
They have a big vacuum,
Happens to almost half.
a vacuum cleaner or something.
Yes, they do have a vacuum cleaner that you can try and get material out of the air. A lot of times they'll utilize vacuum cleaner to try and suck stuff out, a wet vac kind of thing. It's the idea of it. Also, just run a paper towel through the air and try and gather the material up. More so, locations, sick bags all around that you can get to very rapidly. So, and the astronauts know where that stuff is. And it usually happens only at the very beginning. Unless somebody gets sick, you know, which generally doesn't happen. Because once you get up there, you're isolated away from everything else. So unless something comes up with in a spacecraft that's coming up to you, you're not going to get sick once you've been up there for a little while. Now, space sickness generally affects people in the first few days when they're up on a mission, and less so when you're on repeat missions, you know. So, but that first mission, just under half do get affected by space sickness and get affected for, you know, a day, a couple of days, 3 days, and then your body gets used to it and you're okay. But yeah, if it's to get in the air, same as anything, whether it's food that you spill while you're making something, water that you let go, urine, feces, vomit, you know, so you got to get it out of the air. The best ways are paper towels to kind of corral it in, towels, you know, anything like that. And there is also a vacuum to vacuum stuff off as well.
What do they do with those towels?
Bag them up and then put them in the trash, essentially.
Waste as well.
It's waste. It's vacuum packed, and then they put it into a storage locker and storage bag essentially. And then when they have one of those resupplies, they take all the trash and waste clothing, you know, that used clothing, the feces, everything else, and it all goes into that spacecraft, and then it comes back to Earth and gets burns up on re-entry.
But they don't want any kind of incinerator on it because you got your oxygen.
Fire spacecraft bad. Yeah, so even when they've had fire experiments on the spacecraft, they've been extremely concerned about that. So, because, you know, it's fire in zero-G is bad.
End of the lecture.
So its behavioral characteristics are not good. So you need to control it and contain it very quickly. So, okie doke. Thank you for, next month is?
Next month is
It's a
April
lecture
Fool's
on
Day.
going faster than
Wow.
space.
And so Mike Shinneberry will be kidding around in the cosmos. How's that? Same bat channel as today, and I have some other things to tell you about as well. On March 12th, the museum is joining with the Smithsonian, and that's hundreds of affiliates around the country, for Smithsonian Day Live. And as part of our event in celebrating this, it is Women's History Month after all, and so we are having a day-long series of speakers. And I think probably one of our headline speaker is Ginger Carrick, who is the first Hispanic female flight director for NASA, and she is currently the assistant director for the International Space Station for Flight Operations Directorate at Johnson. So she's going to be here. She'll be speaking at 11. We have Dr. Bill Gutman from New Mexico Spaceport speaking at 9. Lieutenant Colonel Ott from Holloman Air Force Base. She is the commander of the 49th Operations Support Squadron. She'll be speaking at 10. We have Scarlett Parenteau, who will be speaking at 1 o'clock, and Captain Diane Campbell from Holloman at 2, and at 3 o'clock, Captain Suzanne Crespo Valentin from Holloman also. So this is targeted at women and girls with the idea of encouraging them to go into career fields related to STEM. And so we highly encourage you to share this information with anybody you might know. All you have to do to get a ticket is go to Smithsonian.com. That'll get you and your friends into the museum free all day long. The speaker series is free, but if you want to go tour the museum, you need to get that ticket. Then, let's see what else. That's right here.
Yep, right here.
Yes, March 12th is the date on that. Then on Friday, March 25th, as we continue with Women's History Month, we have Dr. Philip Tartellone. He is from Eastern Michigan University. He's going to be doing a presentation on the Mercury 13, which is the Women in Space program that unfortunately never got off the ground. And if that's not enough excitement for you, we are now boarding for Trinity Site. We will be doing a motor coach tour to Trinity Site on April 2nd, and we're offering the opportunity for you to go with us. You can register online at our website. On the front page, you'll see a little button that says Motor Coach Tour Registration. Click that button, it'll take you right to the page. You can do it all right there, simple and easy.
Cost for that is?
The cost for that is $70 per person, $60 if you're a member. It includes, of course, the tour going to Trinity and back. We'll have either our curator, Sue Taylor, or Pete Eidenbach, who's a local professor and historian. Some of you may know Pete, he's a great guy. They'll be on the buses. Then we have lunch, then a guided tour of the site, including McDonald House. You come back, you get to see a really bad sci-fi movie on the way back. You'll love it.
You pick a bad one on purpose.
Oh yeah, absolutely the most horrible. This is below B rated.
How bad it gets.
Yeah, it can get right down into the D and F levels. Then guided tour of the museum, and you'll get the opportunity to see Trinity, the atomic bomb movie, in our theater. So it's quite a lineup for $70, and it's also a very nice ride out there.
Yeah,
So.
it's the easiest and most relaxing way to do it. So.
And there's a bathroom.
That is one of the big advantages.
So I hope to see you all at all of these events, and bring your friends. And that's all I've got.
So thank you very much. Hope to see you next month.
Oh.
Okay.
That was cute.
Okay.
First time she's
What I was after was I don't know who to talk to. I know what I can't. The answers. Yeah, we did. We ended up putting the last half of it in.
That's a good question. That I really don't. I don't know the answer to either.
Yeah, when we first started, teaching, then we made us
Yeah. Well, what is the things that you're using to sound? Oh, yeah.
things that are changing.
I know my wife one of these days when we drive up to the mountains,
Specifically, I had to address one thing like course, alignment system that the Russians have.
Yeah.
We're using Dragon, the LiDAR
Yep.
system. So I know all of those things, but I'm not going to be specific. But I've got an area where I'm going to have to see vehicles.
Yeah.
I try to narrow it.
How many cars you have?
When I
Yeah. Wow. You know what, here's what I told her.
I'm trying not to get backwards.
I came here in '91 to learn how to design photographs. I worked with Dr. God. You never believe what I worked
I mean,
on.
she ended up on the
I helped them design the
for us when we did it with the Russian.
Smithsonian Astrophysical.
That's how she ended up like on the side. She ended up being the first astronaut captain. So I mean, and now she's hooking in with a lot of the ISS stuff.
Guy designed it.
If there's anybody who's going to be able to answer that question,
So you were sitting in the.
who you might be able to talk to
That's where I
answer
seen you
the questions,
before.
she'd be the one.
They never flew it
So,
because the person that
she
contracted the.
sit there and say either she doesn't know, you can't do it, or here's who to start with.
Right, well,
Yeah.
even new research avenues, because the bulk of the stuff that I want is, SpaceX or anybody else.
Where did you see it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it is up there, yeah.